Welcome to Strength in the Numbers. My name is Andrew Codd, accountant, author, and commercial finance entrepreneur, and it's my job each week to bring you leaders in finance and business and deconstruct with them their real stories, insights, and hard-won lessons into practical advice on the key strengths and qualities you need to remain relevant in accounting and finance today, as well as the steps you can begin to take to elevate the impact you make to have a fun, successful, and rewarding career in accounting and finance. Now let's go over to the show.
The CFO and the Office of Finance they're looked to now as architects of growth.
Yes, a really exciting message from today's guest mentor, Jason Lin, CFO at Centage. But how can we get there? Well, we touch on so many ideas on this week's episode. We deconstruct two ways on how we can earn a seat at the decision-making table. We also go into a very useful analogy that Jason uses between how tennis and basketball can teach us on how to have a more successful career in finance and become more like these architects of growth, and also some insight behind what our business partners are asking for and the mindset we need to bring into finance. Some great examples Jason shares there also. So look, really hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please remember to subscribe and leave your comments about it. Let your friends and colleagues know. We're on all the major platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. If you do want to delve into the episode, you can find more on our website, sitnshow.com, where you get the detailed show notes, ways to connect with the mentor, and also links to the resources mentioned during the episode. Really hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again for investing your time with us today. And without further ado, over to Jason and the show. Well, Jason, look, you got a fascinating career. I have to say, I liked one of your analogies, and I'd love to share that with your audience, between tennis and basketball. But before we get in there, would you mind perhaps sharing with our audience a brief career journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. So, it's been close to 20 years now that I've been in accounting and finance, and I've been at a lot of different size companies, from the multi-billion-dollar tens and thousands of employees to the just a couple $1 million in annual revenue and less than 30 employees. I've always been a numbers person. I'm very analytical and data driven. And I would say, above all else, I've been very drawn to the FP&A function within finance, so financial planning and analysis. In my opinion, an FP&A professional who is truly doing his or her job correctly has a seat at that decision-making table at any organization, and is heavily involved in operational strategy and insights. And especially in tech and SaaS, where I've operated recently in my career, where there are so many important metrics and KPIs that are related to financials. That piece of it is extremely exciting and interesting for me. So as far as where I am now as CFO at Centage, this was really a unique opportunity for me, because our flagship product here at Centage is Planning Maestro, which is a financial planning and budgeting software. So I faced all the same challenges that they have over the course of my career. So again, that's kind of where I got to where I am now at Centage, and why I'm so excited to be here.
Jason, that's an interesting perspective to bring. So not only do you have to be, I suppose, good at FP&A, financial planning analysis yourself, given that your company's product is that way. I mean, does that bring additional challenges for you in terms of? I imagine you must use your own company's product in terms of a lot of your own processes then.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know that I would call it challenges, but I just think I bring a very unique lens where, I can talk to our sales team about how to pitch the product and how to demo it. So it really, I think, again, is unique because I feel so kind of ingrained and attached to our business that it allows me to sit in a very interesting seat and an exciting place to be, exciting seat.
And you're coming back to the seat again, Jason. So like, in terms of that seat, it's not like, I guess it's just not one of those things where it's just bestowed on a finance professional. I feel you must earn it in some sort of way. So I mean, how do you feel, in finance? I mean, what's the best way for us to earn that seat at the table?
Yeah, so I think the number one thing is just kind of accuracy, right? So in this era of big data and all the leading indicators and KPIs that are flying around that I already mentioned. Being able to bring that financial accuracy and to our business partners so that they can make those strategic decisions and then really being their business partner. I mean, walking alongside with them in the path, right, in the path of the operations, and stepping outside of the traditional quote unquote office of finance, where we're so concerned with the general ledger and our financial statements, but stepping outside of that and being true strategic business partners, I think creates a lot of it creates a lot of good within any organization.
Oh, definitely, and it's great that this concept, business partnering or being a strategic business partner, is getting more momentum. But for some audience members, it's still a bit new. I mean, what does a strategic business partner mean for you, Jason, and your stakeholders?
Yeah, so I mean, it was very early on in my career that I saw that if I kind of approached all of my tasks with just that, look, I'm wearing my finance and accounting hat. It wasn't the best way to create that kind of cross-functional partnership and collaboration where your business partners in the different functions across an organization would look to you as a key person to go to for information, for analysis, for strategy. So I think setting that aside, I've always looked at myself as a business and operations professional with a strong financial background. So that's kind of the mentality that I bring to any role, and that's really kind of, I think, helped me in my career progression and career success, is taking that type of mindset, not losing the financial background that we come from, but also trying to make an impact on the business in that way.
That's a great way of looking at it. I think it's the first time I've heard of that, Jason, is actually looking at yourself as like an operations professional. I know with some people on the show which probably say there'd be more of a commercially minded person or more entrepreneurial, but also with that finance background. That's a killer set of skills to bring to any leadership team. And I suppose, as a leader yourself, a CFO, I mean, how do you sort of try and instill that in your team or give them the opportunities to do that? I mean, how do you distill that operations with a finance background in their mindsets?
Yeah, so I just encourage kind of that curiosity. That's what I look for in people that I try to hire, is the people that want to understand the story beyond just the numbers, which is so important to me. I want people to get up, out of their desk, out of their seats, and walk across the company and talk to the development folks, talk to the marketing folks and the sales folks, and understand the impact that your job in front of you has on them, and also what they're doing, the impact that they have on us. And I really encourage that. And then in my team, in my monthly staff meetings, there's a finance piece of it, but there's always an operational and business piece of it, where we make sure that we're talking about what's going on across the company, cross-functionally, and then even across the space. We talk about competitors and what any kind of trends that we're seeing develop. And again, a lot of those things we pull from our sales team and our marketing team. So it just kind of speaks to the need to communicate to those business partners. That's
a great way of deconstructing that. Now, Jason, I just wonder from an audience perspective, I mean, how many of them talk about their competitors or what's going on in operations or the challenges sales are having? I mean, that'd be curious. I'd love our audience to let us know on that one. I'm going to put that question up with this episode. But I suppose in terms of then drawing out more your leadership experience, Jason, I loved an analogy you used between tennis and basketball to describe, I suppose, how we should be doing it in finance and balancing those environments. So would you maybe perhaps elaborating on that sort of those analogies a bit more, please?
Yeah, sure. So the basketball and the tennis analogies for me, it really encompasses how I've approached my career and what I believe to be important in a finance professional's career. So when you think about tennis, it's a very individual competition, right? You're out there by yourself, and it's kind of you're competing against your competitor, but you're also competing against yourself. It's a mental and it's a mind game where you're literally on an island, and you have to do the work, and you have to figure it out yourself. And I love that piece of tennis, that kind of self-challenge there. And absolutely, I think in everyone's career, you have to be willing to make it individual and put in the hard work, develop yourself as a professional, and that falls on yourself as an individual. So that's the parallel that I draw from tennis. And then basketball, quite the opposite, right? A team sport where you need that team chemistry, or else you're just going to have dysfunction, and my analogy is that you could have a team of the best individual talents who just don't like each other, don't enjoy playing with each other. And you can absolutely lose to a team of inferior talent, but that has that team camaraderie, that plays for each other and that enjoys each other. And you pick the sport and you see it every single year, right? Where, kind of that chemistry trumps talent. So those are my two analogies that I take from the sports world and apply them to career and finance.
Yeah, I love that analogy, and I feel sometimes where people are getting frustrated with their careers, it's probably because they haven't quite got that balance quite correct yet. They've probably been too much on the competitive side and maybe too much on the collaborative side. Right. So that's a useful analogy, I suppose, in terms of getting the balance right. Any advice for our audience there, Jason, in terms of getting it more in between those two?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not letting one get in the way of the other, right? I mean, I think that you absolutely need to push ahead in your own personal career development and your professional training, professional learning, but it's not at the, your team shouldn't suffer from it, right? So, and I think that's super important from my perspective as a leader, right? Where it's managing different personalities, different employees have different motivations, and it's kind of making sure that from my level that everyone understands that, hey, above all else, we're a team and we have team goals that we need to accomplish. Yes, absolutely, I want all of you to be successful individually, and that is going to be part of our kind of career roadmap for the team and for the folks on the team. But above all else, it's the team and company success.
Yeah, completely agree. And I suppose let's go with that theme of success. I mean, from I suppose at the moment, Jason, I mean, what's currently exciting you most about your current work?
So I think, here at Centage, I would just point to the most exciting thing is the opportunity ahead of us. So, right now, everything in the market tells us that there's a huge opportunity ahead of Centage. We are we're a financial planning and budgeting software, and we're targeting the SMB market. And market data tells us that the majority of SMB finance teams are still relying on, Excel tools to do their budgeting and planning. Yet they're looking for something better. I truly believe that Planning Maestro, our flagship product, is that something better. It allows for analysis and kind of real-time reporting to pull insights out of your business that Excel just doesn't do. And I don't think Excel was ever meant to provide those types of insights. So yeah, it's absolutely kind of the opportunity that Centage has in front of you that's the most exciting right now.
Yeah, and I suppose, look, there's still, in my mind, too many SMBs failing in terms of business, and I always wonder if they just get a bit of additional finance advice around their budgeting, their planning, even their working capital management, a bit more up to date information around that. They could survive or make better decisions. Right. I suppose in terms of incorporating, I suppose more structured, more process, more technology driven planning. I mean, what do you say to these SMB leaders who are yet to grasp the advantages of adopting software like yours?
Well, I mean, I think my main message to them would be this is where industry is heading, right? And not only that, but this is where your business partners most likely already are, is this type of kind of a faster pace of decision making. Business partners are asking for analysis and to be turned around much quicker than in the past. And again, Planning Maestro is the tool that allows you to do that. So, and I would implore folks to just, don't think about your plan or your budget for this year, but think about your plan and your budget for the next 2 or 3 years. And that's the mindset that I always bring. Is I try to make decisions that not only make sense for the near term, the next 3 to 6 months, but the next 2 to 3 years. And I think that's our job as leaders, especially as finance leaders, to make those decisions that are going to help our organizations be successful in that longer time frame.
Yeah, because you just took the sort of thoughts out of my mind there, Jason, because I suppose it's very easy just to go day to day, make decisions day to day. But when you used the word earlier, strategic business partnering, well, that's just talking about having a longer time frame, and that's really the essence of finance. Finance is the steward there between the short and the long term. We need to make sure we're balancing those decisions that, yes, we're doing the right things in the short term, but that we're building sustainable business so it's around in the longer term. And I guess then in terms of that longer term, as we sort of as a finance profession grow up a bit and leverage technology to do that. I mean, how do we then engage with the business on those sort of? I mean, maybe it's a case of what's the cost of not doing it, right? So like if we don't do this, then what's the likely outcomes?
Well, so the thing that jumps to my mind is that the business will make decisions without sound financial reasoning. And at the end of the day, I think as a CFO in the Office of Finance, that is your number one job, is to make sure that business leaders, the CEO and the leadership team are making sound decisions for strategy, but sound financial decisions for strategy. And that's the risk, regardless of if you're a very cash positive larger organization, or if you're kind of an organization seeking funding and a little bit lighter on the cash. That this is kind of the goal of most businesses, is to grow and to make sound financial decisions. So there's a lot at stake here in what we're talking about, Andrew, and I strongly believe that.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's what I was actually talking with a business development executive there not so long ago, and we were just talking about all these sort of startups and how they get their funding and whatever. And that's an early stage business. You got large enterprises, you said, that are probably much richer in terms of cash flow.
Right.
But even for those smaller ones, what advantage would it give them just having a finance process or the appropriate technology in place to demonstrate to potential investors that these guys have really thought through their financial planning? I think there was only an article I even read today where there was a well-known UK-based company that went out of business, and investors had put money into it, not insignificant sums into it, without actually bothering to care for the financial processes that might have actually signaled, oh, hang on a sec, this probably wasn't a safe bet for sound strategic decision making. So I do think having those more established processes and products in place is a good way of actually maybe de-risking from an investor's perspective as well the success of some of their investments.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. I think that it de-risks. It also just kind of, for the smaller organizations that we're talking about, it kind of, up levels their output.
Up levels.
Right? So many of the smaller companies that I've joined and been to, I look at, just for example, we're talking about investors and board of directors. I look at the board of directors package that is produced on a quarterly basis, and they're just not mature, and they're not kind of at the level where I'm sure the company leadership wants them to be, and that's what Planning Master really provides, right? It kind of up levels your financial software, your financial reporting. I really think that for an SMB business, you're getting kind of that enterprise level reporting package, all of those types of things that companies strive for. It's available here, and you don't have to produce in Excel, and I think that's one of the things that as we've talked to customers, that they don't understand, that, oh, this is something that we can do today. This is something that as a smaller organization, we can produce a board package that looks competitive with companies that are much more advanced than we are, or much more mature than we are.
And I suppose so the challenge then for those companies is, once they get to that level of maturity, is leveraging it and making the most of it and making those better decisions.
Right.
Sort of any tips for our audience who are in that sort of position is like, okay, got the tools in place, got the tech in place, can do this now. What's next? What's next for them? I mean, is it how to become better at influencing or making an impact with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go back to what we touched on briefly at the start of the conversation, and that's kind of leveraging your business partners, right? So Planning Master is a tool that's built that it's meant for your business partners to come in and have direct input into the financial budget and the financial plan. And that's the key, right? That the tool can be in place, but as a finance team, if we're not reaching out to our business partners and saying, we have this great financial budgeting and planning tool, we want your inputs, we want us to collaborate here and develop a financial plan and a financial roadmap that makes sense, then we're not using the tool properly. And that's the key thing that folks have to understand, is that at the end of the day, it still comes down to finance having, sitting at that table with the rest of the business and working together to create something that adds the most value. And it begins with that collaboration.
Yeah, I completely agree. You just reminded me there, Jason, of one of our early podcast guest mentors. He was a leader in an accounting practice, and I think he's saying was conversations lead to opportunities, and it's using these tools to foster conversations with business partners to structure a roadmap that makes sense, something that's executable, that's sound financially as well. Right. And I think that's really where a lot of us need to get to. So look, really appreciate you sort of introducing those concepts to us and giving us great advice. Great. I mean, what's been the best bit of advice you've ever received?
Own your own career. I think
sounds like from experience.
Take ownership of your career. I had a mentor say this to me early on, and I just feel that when I really understood what that meant, I really started to make progress as a finance professional. So it's all about understanding that at the end of the day, it's not your manager or your organization's responsibility to push forward your career development. It is your own responsibility, and you have to take accountability for that, right? So whether that means seeking out professional development and training and learning opportunities, or stepping up and proactively taking on projects that are outside of your comfort zone so that you can develop. I mean, these are the things that I really believe are absolutely leading indicators to career success. And so when I fully understood what it meant to own my own career, that was a huge moment for me. And I would definitely say that that's some of the best advice that I've ever received.
Yeah, no, that really resonates. Yeah, definitely, Jason. I think that's great advice. And I suppose in terms of maybe leveling up in terms of doing that, I mean, any sort of recommended resources you suggest our audience go check out?
So, I mean, aside from just like everything that's available, in space these days, and for example, your podcast and things that you can use to leverage and understand what's going on, I really think that finding that, somebody a personal mentor to sit down with monthly, where you're not bringing your laptop, you're not bringing your phone, and there's no work going on, and all that you're talking about is kind of career development and where you've been successful, where you need work, those kind of conversations, which, as I'm sure those, when things get busy, when the fire drills pop up, those conversations, those conversations are the first ones to push, right? Well, let's right. Let's reschedule that career discussion. Let's reschedule that mentoring session. But I just absolutely believe that on a cadence, whether it's monthly or quarterly, you need to set aside time to reflect on what you're doing well in your career, reflect on where you're strong, and reflect on where you need to develop. So I would encourage folks to think about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. I'm glad you say this, Jason, because I think there's so many in our profession struggle with this in terms of just keeping that time sacred for developments. And if you think about it, across the week, it's not a lot of time,
right?
And we are finance professionals. We are really highly qualified people that are very clever and smart at what we do. Right. We can figure out how to make the time back else another time, but this is just non-negotiable. It just has to be done because the benefits far outweigh the investment of time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely acknowledge that we're always, it seems like we're always running from one drill to the next, but get creative. I've had times in my careers where I've met my mentor for breakfast on Saturday mornings, right?
There we go. Yeah. Great one. That is a great one.
Yeah. So you just have to get creative and make sure that it's an investment in yourself is what it is. And then you have to make sure that you're making that investment.
Yeah, 100%. So, and I love the example. This, if you're doing it on Saturday morning with your mentor over breakfast, I mean, come on, there's other creative ways as well, right? So that's a great one to begin with. So look, Jason, really enjoyed the conversation. If some of our audience wish to continue it, where's the best way to connect with you at?
So I'm on LinkedIn. I would ask people to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to continue the conversation. On social media or, over email live. I'm happy. I'm always happy to have this type of discussion. And I'm sure you can tell, but these are the things that excite me about finance and where we're at today and how we're just kind of looked to as key strategic business partners to push organizations forward. So I'm happy to continue the conversation.
Oh, that's brilliant, Jason. And look, I suppose in terms of wrapping this up, I loved how you gave the story, how you were drawn to FP&A, why that mattered. The actually deconstructing strategic finance business partners for us, because I don't think folks actually really have much in the way of examples of this, people sharing their stories. And I love the mindset shift of, yes, I've got a finance background, but starting with operations first, so an operations and a finance professional. I think that's a great way of us actually making inroads as strategic business partners too. So, before we wrap up fully, Jason, just sort of any other parting thoughts to share with the audience?
No, I think it's just if you're involved in finance right now, it's an incredibly exciting time. There's certainly no lack of excitement out there when you think about so many companies going through digital transformation. You add to the fact that we're right on the brink of the age of machine learning and artificial intelligence, right? So what's amazing to me, and I would encourage folks to think about this, is that the Office of Finance is literally right in the middle of all this excitement. So a while back I saw an article in Forbes, and it was called "The New CFO is a Change Maker in the Age of AI." So direct quote was that the CFO and the Office of Finance they're looked to now as architects of growth. So you just think about that, and that's outside of the traditional realm of accounting, budgeting, forecasting. We are being looked at within organizations to drive organizational growth. And that is just so exciting. That gives me the chills to even say that architects, architects of growth, right? That's it. I think when you think about it, I mean, really, Andrew, if we pulled up job descriptions of finance professionals over the last 20 years, I think early on you would not see an architect of growth on any bulleted.
Not a chance.
Right. So it's just an amazingly exciting time to be in finance, and so that's what I would end with.
That's perfect. Architects of growth. What a way to wrap up. Jason, thank you so much for being such a great guest.
Thank you very much for your time, Andrew. Appreciate it.
So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you'd like to know more about our guests today, their bio, and follow up on the resources mentioned during the show, you can find all the relevant links and more at sitnshow.com. There you'll also be able to get access to earlier shows, read the latest blogs. There's also an opportunity to subscribe to our newsletter, which will give you heads up as to when the next show is coming out, latest events, news, and anything that's going to be relevant to help you have a fun, rewarding and successful career in finance and accounting. And just before you go, we really appreciate your feedback. If there's something we can do better on the show, something that's not working, or something you'd like to see, even a guest you'd like for us to invite onto the show, someone who you think might be able to benefit you more and also the rest of our community, please let me know. You can email me. I'm at andrew@sitnshow.com, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just drop me a message so I know how you found me and we can connect. And really, it's our community that'll make the show. If we keep engaging and driving each other on, we'll keep on building our strength in the numbers. When all is said and done, if we can do the numbers better and finance better, we'll create more opportunities for ourselves, our friends, our families, our communities and our businesses. So until next time, have a good rest of the week, take care, and let's keep building our strength in the numbers.